Early 1997. The Indian media is occupied by a hotly contested debate on DTH, or direct-to-home television. Star TV, owned by a US-based Australia-born media mogul, announced the imminent launch of a digital distribution system that could bring to the Indian viewers hundreds of television channels simultaneously. The government of India, pending legislation, denied his Indian operations this permission. It was the battle for direct-to-home TV services that shifted the focus to this man. He was already a powerful media force the world over. Now he had set India as his next corporate target. For the average viewer, one question remained unanswered. Why was Rupert Murdoch in a hurry to push through the DTH operations in India? In one of his company's annual reports, Murdoch had written, "The opportunity we see in Asia is truly staggering. As we continue to build our business there, we are more convinced that Star TV has a bright future." Yet, 4 years after having bought Star from the stable of Hong Kong-based billionaire Lee Ka-shing for over $800 million, Murdoch's Asian venture was not quite in the pink of health. Had Rupert Murdoch read the market wrong?
News Corp does not understand Asia. One of the things News Corp has shown time and again, that they fail to read the political scenario, the social scenario of Asia, not only in India, but also in Hong Kong, also in China, also in Singapore, also in Malaysia.
However, Murdoch is generally perceived as a businessman who has the stamina of a long-distance runner, a long-term media player.
He wanted to be a long-time player in the world's largest democracy, which was going to be probably in the next 5 or 10 years the second largest market in the world. He's seen all that. He's a long-time player.
His deep pockets help him sustain ventures which would normally seem non-viable.
He wants to invest. He has got enough resources. And resources more than any other industrialist or media baron in this country has. So he knows that he will ultimately win the race.
Murdoch's global empire spans the entire spectrum of print and electronic communication. But it is television which has of late become the money spinner.
Hi folks, John Melikar. This morning we're coming to you live on Hollywood Boulevard, where tonight...
Television enterprises now produce 34% of News Corporation's operating income, having surpassed newspaper publishing and other industry segments. The company's digital satellite television reach has already penetrated 5 of the world's continents. His News Corporation portfolio has 237 satellite transponders, making his company one of the world's largest commercial user of satellite communications. Murdoch himself said in one of his rare interviews, "With these systems, News Corporation will not only be vertically integrated, we will be delivering video, audio and data services via our own technology. Only the multimedia satellite delivery platforms make this possible." The constantly expanding transponder galaxy of News Corporation has been inspired largely by the incredible success in the UK of his subscription-based B Sky B. In the late 80s, Murdoch was losing almost $15 million a week on his satellite operations in the UK. But he acquired the control of BSB, which was owned partly by the BBC in 1990. By 1996, B Sky B, the new company, was making a daily pre-tax profit of almost $1.2 million. Today, Murdoch's global ambitions are fueled by these staggering figures. He has launched DTH operations in Japan. He has similar operations in South America. Murdoch, his competitors allege, wants to become the gatekeeper of digital television. In a lecture given to the Royal Television Society, Andrew Neil, former Murdoch employee, who was once executive chairman of Murdoch-owned B-Sky B, argued for diversity in the coming age of digital broadcasting. He feared that Murdoch was set to dominate digital broadcasting. Sky was well advanced to launch over 200 digital satellite channels. It commanded the technology to make it the digital gatekeeper for the new age of pay TV. The danger would be that Sky would control who could enter and the access would be on its terms. It is this fear that Murdoch may one day turn into a monopolist using the vast synergies at his command, which evoke hostile reactions against him the world over. In his book Full Disclosure, Andrew Neil says that Murdoch once told him, "Monopolies are a terrible thing, unless you have one."
His agenda is the same as is his agenda all over the world, to start media outlets, whether it is print media or electronic media, and gradually to take over the local media and establish a monopoly.
Ted Turner, founder of CNN, claimed that his rivalry with Murdoch also stems from a fundamental ideological difference. Turner commented, "He wants to sit here and control Indian television in India. He wants to control Chinese television in China." In the free market, which the likes of Murdoch champion, only the numbers of viewers will matter.
Reaching Indian homes now are a certain number of messages, some overt, some subtle, but which, whether it is intended or not, is designed to turn a citizen, an individual, and a voter into a consumer. That is the logic. What Mr. Murdoch wants is a consumer.
This apprehension notwithstanding, some critics argue Murdoch will bring into this country healthy competition.
It would be a very good thing if more outside players came and they were bound by certain imaginative and flexible rules about operations in this country. I think it would not do I'm telling you, I don't want to sound very pompous in these matters, but it would not do Indian democracy bad. I think the whole Indian media scene needs not only infusion of money, but real competition.
If only the big bully with a lot of money has an entree into the market, then there is no choice you're giving the viewer. Then you're dumping something on the viewer.
When he invested in Asia, Murdoch and his associates had great faith in the future of Pan-Asian TV. The losses incurred by Star TV to the tune of $80 to $100 million per year in the early 90s was, in their words, in line with expectations. Soon, Murdoch had come to realize that there is no such thing as a Pan-Asian market. Local programming is what matters. So he began to develop regional markets. In India, he attempted to Indianize his channel. This, according to some analysts, was a strategic blunder.
If Star Plus would have retained its strong English position and launched a second channel with Indian language, it made marketing sense. But Star Plus suddenly one fine morning it woke up and said, "Look, I am the leader in the English language television in this market, but I don't like the market size. So let me try taking Z head on." I think that was a very major marketing strategy error.
However, with the advertising pie in the country limited, Murdoch realized that he had to introduce pay TV in some form in the near future.
If India had a well-organized cable distribution system where you could have addressability, where if someone wants to see Star Plus can pay $10 and pick up Star Plus, Madhu would have never bothered for DTH.
But the country's cable system did not allow such conditional accessibility to its viewers.
The DTH is critical for Newscom for two reasons. One is that they are not able to get into the pay TV mode because the ground delivery system is inadequate for that. Now, unless they get into pay TV mode, and a proper tiered pay TV mode when people can pick and choose channels and pay for their favorite channels, they'll never make money.
Direct-to-home was therefore seen as the only way to salvage his business prospects in India.
There are 20 million cable and satellite homes. Now, if DTH can access 2 million customers at about 500 rupees per month, it essentially means that these customers will be able to generate $300 million worth of revenue or 1,200 crores worth of revenue every year. Now, this revenue is very important to compensate for the small advertising base that the Indian economy has.
News Corporation's own projections mentioned that by the third quarter of 1997, Star would introduce a new multi-channel platform called iSkyB. The new service would use digital technology and broadcast from 7 Ku band transponders on PAS-4 satellite. Unfortunately, the law of the land came in Murdoch's way. On 17th of July 1997, the Department of Telecommunications passed a notification prohibiting import and use of integrated receiver decoders for reception of Ku band transmissions, in effect ensuring that DTH would not be permitted till the government framed proper rules and regulations. His competitors argued that Murdoch was eager to rush through DTH operations because he wanted to come in first to remain ahead.
In a thing like DTH, there cannot be many players, correct? Now, when there cannot be many players, the first timer, the person who comes in first time, definitely has something to gain. Z came in first. There was a market available. It was only catered by Doordarshan. Z came in first, and Z gained because of that. Similarly, in DTH also, if somebody comes in first, he gains.
But the battle for DTH was bruising. The days and hours prior to the 17th of July 1997 notification saw hectic and ruthless play in the corridors of power. The country's media was polarized, and all concerned parties used their clout and access to the powerful to persuade the government to get a policy favorable to them.
The battle is so dirty and so squalid that there are no rules in the game. And I think some of the stories that I hear make my hair stand on head, the kind of things that one network does against the other network. So I think there are no rules in this game. And because the turf is so prosperous and the guy who gets in first makes the money, the competition for being first in this matter is very, very great.
With DTH on hold, Murdoch has plans to digitally encrypt on C-band his channels in India to enter the pay TV market through the cable operator. Critics today claim that if global players like Murdoch have attempted to enter the country unbridled, the fault lies with the legislators. The issue of uplinking from Indian soil, requested by both Indian and foreign channels, has not yet been settled.
We have not devised any norms. Even this uplinking and downlinking tamasha goes on. As everybody tells me that what's the thing about uplinking? The whole thing is downlinking. So we give them downlinking and we stop uplinking. We are so stupid where we can make some money. In uplinking we can make some money. In downlinking, on which we have no control, we allow that.
In early 1997, at the behest of certain bureaucrats, the government did propose enacting a broadcast bill. But the major players who had already made vast investments in this unregulated market were determined to protect their investments.
There are a number of pulls and pressures that can be exerted and will be exerted by Mr. Murdoch, because he will not let his investment of $2 billion go down the drain. It is no use to him to have a 20% equity stake to operate in India.
A whole range of cowboys identified a country of great potential without a regulatory framework, and they said, let's go and take it over. Now, having taken it over, now they're very reluctant to let it go. But they're overlooking the fact that that it was their investment decision to come into this market without a regulatory framework. They're all global players. They all knew that there'll be a regulatory framework in this market.
There was hectic lobbying, trying to influence the clauses in the broadcast bill, which had been sent to a parliamentary committee for examination.
The foreign player looks at India as the last big market. Let us not forget that we are 1/4 of the world's population. And if you can address that population on your terms, then you will lobby ruthlessly for it.
Indian players quickly realized that they could protect their turf by ensuring a cap in foreign equity participation.
As far as foreign equity is concerned, on any Indian language channel or programming, foreign equity need not be there at all. On any foreign language, including English, you can give any equity that you deem fit.
Foreign satellite channels, on their part, lobbied ruthlessly to get the provisions in the bill altered to suit their business ambitions.
Star did a lot of lobbying. Nobody's looking beyond their noses. You can lobby for 1 year because you have some financial gain or whatever. But I think you have to look at the subcontinent and try and create a policy that is going to be relevant for 25 years, 10 years. You have to give yourself some ballpark figure. And this kind of mindless lobbying came from the West because they thought, ooh, let's capture this market, let's put in whatever we can at whatever cost.
Certain old-fashioned ethical questions were now being asked. Among them, questions like how far should transnational media companies be allowed to try and sway the broadcast agenda of a sovereign nation.
Since the start of the satellite TV, sovereign nation should be listening to everybody, looking at the laws of every other country, also understanding the ground realities in those countries, and then the law should be framed according to the need of the country.
The delay in cobbling together a credible legislation by the Indian Parliament disturbs some commentators.
If they were really concerned and if they really thought broadcasting in India was an important thing, integral to the integrity of the nation, as they say, they should have got this. This bill should have been in place 3 or 4 years ago.
For the past 10 years, the media, and especially the electronic media, have been evolving in an absolute void. There are no norms, no conventions. The laws are thoroughly antiquated. Many of them date back to the last century.
The absence of any regulatory body gives an opportunity for international media barons to muscle their way into the country and for satellite channels to violate the advertising code of the land with impunity.
When I have to uplink from Singapore as an Indian player, with permission from the Reserve Bank, I have to sign a piece of paper that says no liquor and no cigarette ads. Now, why are these gentlemen sitting out of Hong Kong allowed to put that on, including sex telephone advertising?
Although Murdoch has not yet entered the print market in India, there are many who are convinced that in the long run, this territory will be easy pickings for him. But they caution Murdoch's entry into this sensitive area.
The newspaper, in its incarnation as the fourth estate, is seen as an essential part of the structures of governance. And just as you would not hawk the Rajya Sabha or the Supreme Court, you cannot hawk the fourth estate. I mean, that's the logic. And this is why in several countries, including in the United States and elsewhere, there are very, very strict laws about allowing foreigners to own newspapers.
Other editors argue that there is already a compelling case for a review of the legislation that bans foreign equity participation of print companies in India.
It's the print which requires induction and infusion of funds. Controlling interest should remain with Indians, but foreign equity participation as a commercial venture in the print medium, I don't see why it should be separate from any other industry.
If Mr. Murdoch came to India, 2 things would happen, I think. Firstly, that our proprietors would get a kick in the pants, and there would be genuine competition, and newspapers would again come back into the hands of journalists and editors.
The issue of foreign ownership in the print medium remains a contentious one. Murdoch, in this scenario, only evokes fears of interference in the country's political system.
As soon as you allow a foreigner a foothold in your arena of news, then inevitably news means politics. It means the public sphere. And Mr. Murdoch's toehold in that is going to be difficult to resist.
Editors who have worked with him, such as Harold Evans, in his book Good Times, Bad Times, documented constant attempts by Rupert Murdoch to get his papers to toe his political line. Rupert Murdoch generates a kind of awe one normally reserves for the unknown. Today, the media focus is on his personal life, on its implications to his business, of his recent divorce from his wife Anna, and the overriding question of who will succeed him. Of his 3 children, his son, Lachlan Murdoch, is being groomed to take over the empire. Yet, Murdoch has no immediate plans of calling it quits. The 67-year-old Australian, now with an acquired American citizenship, has built a colossal media empire. But there are many who question the means he used to achieve his ends.
Anything that promotes the business interests of Mr. Murdoch, and that could be news, that could be entertainment, that could be giving jobs to the boys. I mean, just about anything is good if it promotes business.
It is the issue of monopoly which forms the core of any debate about Murdoch. More so when that monopoly is evident in the field of communications, where both software and hardware are integrated and exist in the cutting edge of technology. It is estimated that by the year 2000, the joint worth of American film, television, and global information business may reach about $3 trillion, or roughly $1 out of every $6 of global GNP. Murdoch will be one of the larger giants of this colossal enterprise. His biographer, William Shawcross, wrote that Murdoch's overarching ambition has been to create a worldwide information company in which software and distribution systems were forged together in every market, everywhere. That was what he had been doing all his life. In recent times, the scale of it has just got grander and grander. In this age of global communications, it will not be possible for any country to withstand the entry of a Rupert Murdoch. The question is, how can we allow him in without jeopardizing our national interests?
6 of us sat around, we would come up with a blueprint and say, look, this is it. This will protect our national interests. It will make sure that nobody can come and play merry with our democracy, and at the same time that we will allow people in.
I'm not sure how to battle Mr. Murdoch, but I can tell you I'm sure about how not to battle Mr. Murdoch. Becoming a Murdoch mimic is not the answer. If you're merely going to get some of the more vulgar forms of mass entertainment from the United States and Europe coming into India, that is no way to battle Mr. Murdoch.